Hi, welcome to Nara Fellowship. Today I have my good friend Lorraine, who is my learning partner in crime. We've known each other since 2013, 14, somewhere in there. And since I would like to talk about learning and talking with other learners, I'd asked if she might be available to come on the podcast. Hi, Lorraine.
Well, hi, Valerie. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Is there anything you think you'd like to add to what I said of like a little bit about yourself or anything like that?
Well, sure. I've been working for about 25 years at a manufacturing company, and that keeps me very busy. I don't have a lot of time for traditional learning, so I find YouTube and podcasts and things like that, lectures and classes, to be really helpful in researching the things that I'm interested in learning.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So we'll start the game off with some of my questions that you helped me develop.
Okay.
Um, so I'm getting more professional now. Ooh. Um, so what learning styles work best for you? You mentioned that you like classes and podcasts, and so what
Yeah.
what seems to help you the most?
Well, it was interesting. Years ago, I used to love to read and did a lot of reading. And I don't know, as the years went by, I found that reading um, was more of a challenge, and I would get real sleepy when I would read. I remember in college, there was a lot of reading. Never finished any of the reading for any of my classes. So, luckily, with my particular major, I was able to get by okay without having completed all the reading. Um, my major was in the liberal arts. It was a writing program. It was kind of a unique program offered at CU Denver. So it was a little bit of all different types of writing. And so, luckily, if you could take good notes, pay attention in class, and do essay tests, you were okay. Um, but yeah, as the years have gone by, I find I'm just tired and don't feel like reading anymore. I think a lot of years on the computer have uh, lent to me maybe liking more of audiovisual type learning classes. I just find that I'm more accountable to go to a class, or like you and I have developed a accountability night
Yeah,
where we work on projects that we might not work on otherwise if we were on our own
yeah,
to do them. And that's been really a big help for me. It's helped me to be able to move forward in, whether it's researching something that I'm interested in, or um, balancing my checkbook, paying bills, things like that. Um, that's been really great. But as far as learning, yeah, definitely, listening to podcasts on YouTube primarily, and that's been, or even researching things online. That's primarily the ways that I learn. Other
cool.
than maybe going to signing up for a class or something, I would be more inclined to do it versus read about it in a book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Um, what do you learn? What do you enjoy learning?
Um, I've been on a quest, shall we say, for a number of years to improve certain areas of my life. And so I'm interested in learning more about health. I've spent a lot of time learning about supplements and nutrition, and in later years, interested in learning about the mind body connection, how emotions affect our health, how we can manage our health more through learning to take our thoughts captive and try to reprogram our thought patterns with positive information rather than negative information. So, those are some of the things that I've been interested in learning.
Cool. Um, and you answered my next question, what topics that tend to attract your attention most and why? But we didn't touch on why you deal with a lot of health issues and stuff.
Mhm.
Um, you and I met. actually, because I got into essential oils and you were a friend of a mutual friend,
Hmm.
um, and we just kind of hit it off, and you kind of mentored me and teaching me about oils and stuff, and it kind of grew from there from different
Yeah.
things.
Hmm.
Um, you also like um, learning about, you know, biblical stuff,
Yes.
um, and
Hmm.
uh, and all that kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
um,
Spiritual growth, right?
yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm also interested in history and, um, biblical prophecy, um, how some of that stuff ties together.
Oh.
Yeah. Hmm.
Aside from the health issues, what else attracts you to the other things that you like to learn about? Why do you think you're attracted to history and Bible prophecies? Because of your faith, or just it's history mixed with future stuff, or
Yeah, I think some of both. Yeah, it's interesting. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of information out there, so I have to kind of be a little careful and not get too overloaded with
yeah.
too much. I think that's probably why my brain doesn't want to do reading, because it's a little bit of a tired brain most of
Aw,
the time.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of information, a lot of multitasking
Mm.
required during my job, and so I think that has taken its toll on my brain, to so to
Aw,
speak.
yeah. You kind
So
of sometimes you just want to kind of defuse.
yeah,
You know,
so
your mind just needs to kind of
yeah,
rest.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, um, but why am I attracted to those things? I guess I just find them really interesting
Mm.
and compelling.
The shiny thing. It's like, oh, what's this?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. They're
um,
always finding interesting new developments out there and new theories about Earth's past, if you will.
cool.
So, yeah.
So, we just covered why you prefer more classes and podcasts over self-study more.
Hmm.
Um, and what what are some of the challenges or roadblocks in your learning endeavors? Have you been able to find solutions for them? What worked for you?
Um, I think time time limitations, so not having a lot of spare time, and then realizing that my body needs more rest. These, than it did maybe 20 years ago, let's say.
Mm,
So I think not having a lot of time and not having a lot of energy, um, those have been some roadblocks for me. That's why
mm,
I kind of like the podcast learning, because you can do that either perhaps multitasking. Maybe I'm driving to work or I'm cleaning the house or getting ready for work.
mm,
Then I can be inputting some positive information, something interesting
mm.
to think about during my day.
Cool.
So,
Very cool. Um, what are some of the resources or types of tools or things that you found that you like or helpful in taking notes and learning? So like there's some people like certain apps and things, some people like a method of note taking.
mm,
Um,
mhm.
so is there anything that kind of sparks out to you? It's like
Yeah,
you're incredible at taking notes. So I'm jealous of you, and I'm like, wow. I just kind of scribble and I write like one or two sentences as I'm trying to focus on what the person is saying in the class.
yeah,
Um, but you're able to maybe that's from college or something, or
probably. Yeah, because
okay.
my major, I did have to do a lot of note taking. I imagine, and of course, we're talking 40 years ago. So
Oh yeah,
I'm sure, today the technology is completely different and the whole classroom setting is probably completely different, and the learning styles and the assignments and the projects and things are probably completely different now.
yeah,
So, so yeah, I think that's probably where I developed the note taking, and I've just kind of carried on with it. So it's very old school. Yeah, spiral notebook and pen, and I'm ready to roll.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Not
So,
that I ever go back and read those notes again, but sometimes I do.
well, one of the things I found is that in some of the books that I've read, and some people talked to me at one of the Jerusalem of Gold dance things, she was telling me how if you write something down, it tells your brain that this is important to
Mhm.
try to remember it. And
Mhm.
then if you write it with your weak hand, it makes it even more important. I
Wow.
have not been able to do that because
I've
I'm
never tried.
right-handed. Like this is like I have enough scribbles with my right hand. You don't want to see what goes on with my left
Right?
hand.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I think it does solidify it more, an idea or concept if you write it down. I think
yeah,
that's true.
yeah,
I think I've heard that before.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, is there anything else that you find that helps when you're listening to podcasts and stuff and you're busy doing stuff? Um, it's like something just sticks in your craw, or is there like a memorization technique that you use, or it's
Um,
just like
I
practice over the
will
years kind of
I will
thing?
take notes, or like if they refer you to go check out somebody's website or something like that, then I may jot that down and go back and look it up later. Um, so I do save a lot of the podcasts. I've got a pretty good library now in YouTube, so I can go back and reference those. So I think a
Cool.
lot of the things that I'm learning, some of the things I'm learning are more kind of for fun, homesteading and prepping and self-reliance skills and things like that.
Cool.
Stuff like, well,
Always handy skills
may
to
never
have.
need this. Yeah, we may never
Yeah.
use this, but
Yeah.
there's some good information. It's
Yeah.
fun sometimes to think about, well, I feel like it'd be great to have a little farm or a little homestead someday. So
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll
Yeah.
see
Get
what the
away from
future
the
brings.
busyness of work and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go to maybe a small town um, environment. So.
Just out of curiosity,
Mhm.
you listen to a podcast a lot. Is there a particular type of podcast streamer that you use, like Spotify or uh, Podbean or one of these others, or do you have a collection of them that you use?
No, actually, everything I listen to is all on YouTube.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, cool.
So,
Um, yeah, YouTube is where I start my podcast. So yeah, there we
right,
go.
right.
Um, let's see. Let me look at my notes here. Um, what have you learned that you found helpful?
I think there's been a lot of things over the last 10 years that kind of have empowered me to um, be a stronger person. I was really struggling about 10 years ago. Um, we'd had some financial challenges, and um, I think one of the podcasters she's really empowering, Mel Robbins, and she says this in a lot of her shows that nobody's coming, nobody's
Yeah,
coming to help you. You
yeah,
need to do this. You can do this. She's very empowering, to motivate people to get up and get going, because she
yeah.
herself went through a period of deep depression, and I think her husband's business went bankrupt, and
Oh,
things like
geez.
that. Some pretty
Wow.
serious stuff, and it was
Hard.
yeah, it's like nobody's coming, so you need to you know quit waiting for somebody to come help you and
Yeah.
bail you out of your situation. You need to work through it. And but the great thing, I guess, is that there's so much information available for people to learn now. It's like probably the greatest time ever in history for learners,
Mm,
because there's almost no excuse that people can't learn whatever it is they want to learn, to
cool.
change their situation, to you know learn a new skill, learn a new trade, learn a new language, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that was one of the really empowering things, and just the whole idea of being able to. Um, Dr. Carolyn Leaf has a really good book called "Switch on Your Brain,"
Mm,
and she's a neuroscience scientist, and she talks a lot about how to take your thoughts captive and reprogram your thinking so that you can have a you can even be happier and have a more, fulfilled life and those kinds of things, just
Mm,
to um, learn how to master some of those skills.
yeah. So what? Um. So we went through our questions. I thought we would be a little bit longer.
Okay.
Um. But do you have any? I'm already down at question 8,
Hmm.
which is do you have any last thoughts or words of encouragement for other learners?
I guess my encouraging thoughts would be to people that still haven't discovered the answer
Mm,
to what they might be looking for, maybe more in a emotional sense, or in a happiness sense, or in a situation where somebody isn't where they want to be financially or physically with their health.
mm,
Is that I truly believe that the answers are there. I think that it's just a matter of, keeping your mind open, keeping your heart open, and holding on to hope,
mm,
and then also keep looking. Because I
yeah,
think, you know, a lot of people out there struggling with a lot of different issues right now, but I
yeah,
think there's also a lot of resources for people out there
yeah,
at the same time, if they're willing to look for them, if they're willing to open their mind and realize that they probably need to do a little changing of their thinking. You're not going to, the definition of insanity, right? That everybody talks about, that you're not going to, get out of your situation without changing something.
yeah,
Usually, I think it starts with the mind and thinking uh, about it, your situation or your life or whatever, in a different way that
yeah.
will open up new doors for you.
Yes, in writing, one of the things that I read about for writing was writing the book actually transforms you.
Hmm.
And if you don't go through a transformation with writing, there's probably not much in the book for people to grab onto.
Yeah,
Um,
that's really good.
we we are so reluctant to change, yet we need to change.
Yes.
And we can change for the worse, which is not recommended.
I think we've
But
all done that.
yeah, yeah, I was like, oh yeah, my vices and my foibles, you know them all. Um, but yeah, the one of the things I think I remember you and I chatting about doing the conversation, and one of the things that was important to you that you wanted to mention, and I wanted to let you elaborate on,
Hmm.
was the the stuff that you found out about the mind, about
Hmm.
changing your mind, changing your perspective, dealing with really hard circumstances, and flipping it on its head and not letting it control you.
Hmm.
Do you have any thoughts? I apologize, I don't remember the exact words you used. I just remember it's about mindsets
Hmm.
and um, uh, it's not just Pollyanna positivity stuff. It's really uh, trying to. A lot of people have had really demeaning words said to them, and or even themselves
Hmm.
saying demeaning things to themselves, and they have to change that thinking, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, Dr. Carolyn Leaf, Leaf, and she's got a lot of books that she's written, and she also has a lot of t- different interviews on YouTube. She has a pretty heavy accent, so she is a little challenging to understand.
Mm,
But yeah, that's what Switch on Your Brain. And there was a new book that she had, um, something about cleaning up your messy mind,
mm,
and that everybody has a messy mind.
yeah.
But it is a skill of learning to step back, and when you're thinking a certain way, then looking at your thoughts from the third person perspective.
Mm,
Um, well, why am I thinking that thought? Why is my brain, you know, and then going in and reprogramming through a neural pathway, basically. She gets pretty technical with
Yeah.
it. And what's really fascinating about her work is she also um, is a Christian, so she's bringing in a lot of biblical understanding, um, so that she'll explain from a scientific perspective what this particular verse might be saying, such as take thoughts captive, or um, things of that nature.
Yeah.
I
Renewing your mind.
Renewing your mind,
Yeah.
exactly, and that how that will actually grow. She shows 2 trees, they're little shrubs that she holds up in plastic or whatever they're made of, and one is flourishing and
Mm.
one is withering. And so
Oh.
she says, "This is your negative thoughts and these are your positive thoughts." And when you start reprogramming, and it could be as simple as, something is comes up in your mind and or your heart and your spirit. It could be a negative emotion or whatever. You just have to say no.
Mm.
That's as simple as it's very simple. No, no.
Yeah.
Not
Well,
gonna
some people
not
I'll
gonna
push back a
entertain
little
that.
bit. Oh, go ahead.
Mhm.
I apologize.
Yeah, I'm not gonna entertain that thought again. That thought
Right.
needs to leave.
There's kind of like a balance though, because some sometimes you have to process negative thoughts and then
True.
get through the thought, and
Mhm.
the other stuff is just you know it's just lead weight. It's garbage,
Yeah,
and you don't want to eat garbage kind of thing.
true.
Um, and so it's kind of I don't know if she talks about it the nuance of understanding like working your way through grief
Mhm.
as opposed to um, you know overcoming hardship and bad circumstances and pushing through it. I
Right.
notice I have some friends, you know who I'm talking about, and sometimes they just need to vent, and they
Sure.
just and in
Yeah.
venting, they're able to let go of the negative.
Mhm.
But sometimes the negative just like grows over you like um a bad thing that grows over you.
Well, yeah,
Real poetic there.
almost like
Um,
a maybe like a net or something that
yeah,
then you're trapped, caught in this
yeah.
net or spider web
You're
or
caught in a trap and you're
something you
not letting
can't get
go
out
of
of.
stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and does she talk about anything of like how how to discern the two, or did she mostly focus on people who are just consumed with negative talk and negative thoughts and
It's
you
been a
know
number of years since I read the book and took the class, so I
okay,
really don't remember enough to answer that specific
that's
question, but
okay.
I think they're both good, and they both have their place, and I've done some work like that too, where a lot of times, negative emotions get stored emotionally in a physical trauma in your body. And there's ways to let those emotions go and revisit them, but in a way that you heal that situation, you heal that memory and emotion versus letting it continue to plague you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
That's right.
yeah. Well, I think one of the other really empowering things that I did, a friend recommended, there's a lady, Dr. Cindy Trim, Trimm. She has a number of books, and she also has she has her own shows on YouTube and other podcast venues. Um, but just speaking blessings and speaking life
Mm.
over you, your health, your situation, your marriage, your finances, your business, and um, I started doing that. I was blessed and still am blessed with the 35-minute commute.
Mm.
Um, and I use those morning times to help set my mind for the day
Mm.
rather than getting all drudgery. Here we go to work again,
Yeah.
and that's a bummer. Being depressed about that. To
Yeah.
empowering my mind and my mindset, and um, just she calls it declaring your day. That's one of her books.
Yeah.
And setting the expectation for good things to happen, setting
Mm.
the expectation for empowerment, for being
Yeah.
an overcomer, for being a victor, for being a champion. I mean, I didn't excel in sports when I was in
Mm.
school, so I didn't get any kind of athletic coaching where you get a lot of that kind of mindset
Mm.
taught, and
Mm.
visualization and things like that, visualizing success. And I know that that's very common for Olympic athletes to do that kind of work
Mm.
and visualizing winning and achieving and things like that. So this was a way for me to, I think, build myself up because I was at a real low point
Mm.
10, 12 years ago. And that really helped empower me to break out of that um, depression, to break out of that um, low point of where I was financially,
Mm.
and with my marriage, spiritually, everything.
Yeah.
So,
It's hard. I mean, I was just reading a book on humility, and it got into some interesting stuff I knew, and I'm like, yes, I'm reading it because I'm trying to be, learn more about humility and stuff, and actually be more humble. Because I'm going to be rich and famous as a podcaster, just like Joe Rogan.
that's
Not.
good. You need to have that balance.
Yeah, yeah.
That's smart,
I need to be. I need to be down to earth,
right?
and um, but it got into a section in the book last night. I'm reading it, you know, 11 o'clock at night, um, and we're talking about the power of words
Mhm.
for building people up and edifying
Exactly.
people as well as yourself.
Mhm.
Um,
Yep.
and it was talking about how you know we we really shouldn't. There's a concept in the Bible talking about as you already know, you shouldn't mix salt water with fresh water
Mhm.
and blessing God in one moment and cursing your brother the next moment.
Yeah.
That's not kosher on many different levels. Um, but being mindful of what we say and how we say it and the tone of voice we use.
Yes.
And I jokingly say I'm going to be rich and famous, but maybe it'll become true. I have no idea. I doubt it, but there's so many different podcasts out there. I'm just one of millions. Um, but the thought of like there's I think Viktor Frankl, who wrote In Search of Meaning, talked about how uh, a man can endure almost anything if he has a has a why or something. I know I'm butchering it. Put it in the comments what it
Mhm.
really is. Whoever's
Mhm.
watching, um, so that people are corrected and they know what he actually said. But basically, if you have a why and you have the underpinnings of shaping your mindset to not be a not be a victim and be a victor. And I know I'm tagging lots of people like, what is this and what is that? And I'm like, I know bad things happen to good people. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about going through life always with the mindset is everything's going to go wrong with me all the time. If we
Mhm.
start changing our outlook, we so like the common thing is once you get a new car and let's say it's a yellow a yellow Volkswagen, all of a sudden you're going to start seeing all these yellow cars because
Mhm.
your mind is in tune with the color yellow and you're just going to notice it more. The
That,
same
yeah.
thing is happening for your mind is if you shift your mind that you can be more competent and more together, your mind will actually shift into mode of like, I can do this. I'm not helpless.
Mhm.
There are points in our lives when we're just helpless and we need help. Yes,
Sure. Yeah.
I'm like my family and I. All of that are that. We have all our medical things, we have all our health issues, we help take care of each other with everything. Um, but going transcending that is like not feeling like you're completely incapable of doing things because we all are able to at least pick up tissue that's crumpled on the table and put it in the trash. you know you know barring medical issues or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of it starts in the mind of what we can handle, what kind of suffering and hardship we can endure if we just shift our mind.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
there's a lot of science behind it. There's a lot of motivational speaking about it and all this kind of. It's not just woo-woo stuff, and it's not just positive thinking. There is an element that can be just think good thoughts and only good things will happen. That's not what life is.
Right.
Life is like I have a why. I I want to look on the bright side of life
Mm-hmm.
to endure whatever may come. You know, laugh at myself, laugh at silly things, love people and help people, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so when like those hard things come, you know, not everybody can come to your rescue, as the lady said.
Mm-hmm.
And I know some people who are, I can think of a few people right now who is like, just call me, I would help you. And I'm like, yes, but you might not be able to like give me $12,000 to get me out of the hole.
Right.
Like, even though you're more than willing and you have a heart that's willing to give, you just don't have the means to do so. But um, there's a balance of like, you know, bearing the responsibilities that we have
Mm-hmm.
and helping each other bear each other's burdens. So it's
Right.
like it's not supposed to be one extreme or another.
Right.
It's supposed to be a balance. So we're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to bear our burdens as best as we can and have the humility to ask for help when we need it.
True.
Um,
True.
and one of the things is, you know, I, I'll be honest, I honestly thought when you were first telling me about this years ago, I thought it was just, positive thinking, and I think there's a phrase about magnetic positivity or something like that. I can't remember the exact
The law
phrase.
of attraction,
Yeah, law of attraction.
manifesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like
Mm-hmm.
you'll attract what
Mm-hmm.
you see, and there is that yellow cars thing that goes on.
Yeah.
Um,
Synchronicity. Yeah.
but you know, I had one book that I read talking about the mind body connection.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that was very interesting. Is like they found the people that healed the best and the uh, most completely were not the optimists nor the pessimist.
Hmm.
It was the realistic optimist.
Mm.
It was the person who didn't divorce themselves from reality, but they had a positive outlook of like, it could get better. I will take the steps to do what I need to do and see if I heal better. And those were the people that healed the most.
Mm-hmm.
The people who were the optimists were a little too frail, and the people who were the pessimists were a little too, you know, um, futile
Hmm.
minded. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it was the realistic optimists who were the ones who did the hard work
Mm-hmm.
and let things grow and, you know, reach the best that they could do.
That's cool.
So that was
Interesting.
interesting. I've got
Very.
that
Yeah.
packed away somewhere in a box.
Right.
But that was really interesting, and I discovered that when I was teaching some oil classes. I'm like, oh, okay, this is important because
Mm-hmm.
family with health issues, something
Yeah.
you work with. Um, yeah, so one of the things we talked about transformation,
Mm-hmm.
talking about having a realistic optimism in
Mm-hmm.
life, and even in the Bible, it talks about talking to yourself. Why are you
Mm-hmm.
so downcast, my soul? You know, God is great. And I can't remember the verse, but
Mm-hmm.
if you know the verse, go ahead and put it in the comments. Um, but yeah, so um, As a curiosity, when you were younger, what did you? I'm kind of going off charted uncharted side, so don't get don't worry if you don't have an answer. That's totally fine. But when you were younger, what were some of the things that you were most interested in, and how has that changed over your lifetime?
Hmm.
Are you still interested? Like, were you still interested in history back then, and then you just always carry that on, or is this
Yeah.
like things morphed?
Hmm. Yeah, I was interested in some of the similar things that you are. Um, I had some friends that were in the SCA when I was in high school,
Cool.
and so we did. I went to a couple of things, I think, with them. So yeah, we did a lot of. And then she got interested in Civil War reenactment, so
Ah,
we had a couple things with that we did, and she was also interested in sci-fi, so we went to some of the Star Trek conventions, and
cool.
um, yeah, I think I loved animals and horses. I think that's typical of most
Yeah.
girls. I like to,
Yeah. Girls
dress
like
up
horses.
in Barbie, play
Yeah.
Barbie dolls, and made a lot of clothes for the Barbies.
Aw.
And so, yeah, I was always kind of interested in fashion and historical fashion.
Cool.
Did a research paper on that in college. That was kind of fun.
Cool.
Um, so,
How did you get into sewing?
actually, my mom taught me some, and there were some classes years ago that I think it was like the Singer Sewing Machine Company
Oh,
had a store at the mall, and they
oh,
offered classes.
oh, cool.
So I did some classes. So you actually pick a pattern, you go buy the fabric, and you know make an outfit. And I did some sewing also in home ec
Cool.
classes in junior high. I don't think I did any in high school, but I remember in junior high I did some
Mm.
classes. Yeah, and I actually remember my mom did a lot of sewing, and because back when I was a kid, it was actually cheaper to sew clothing than it
Ah.
is now. It's more expensive to buy a pattern and buy the fabric and all the thread and all the buttons or whatever you need. It's more
Mm.
expensive to sew it than it is to buy it, which is kind of a switch.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is
but
weird.
yeah, money was tight for us growing up, so she did sew a lot of like stuffed animals and pillows, and she taught herself how to um, reupholster furniture. She couldn't
Wow.
afford a new couch, so she took that couch apart. She used the pieces of the fabric as patterns, and she reupholstered it. And then she did a bunch of furniture, and she did the
Oh,
neighbor's furniture for her. She taught herself a
wow.
lot of stuff. Like she went and did cake decorating classes and learned how to. She did those as a
Wow.
part-time, thing to make money. And she made
That's cool.
taught herself how to make curtains. And I think maybe my dad actually showed her how to use the sewing machine. So
Oh,
so yeah,
that's
she was a
cool.
very skilled craftswoman,
Oh,
as
very
you
cool.
know. Meeting her, she did a lot of craft. She learned how to
Yeah.
paint. She learned how to do quilting and all
Yeah.
sorts of craft things. So
She is
yeah,
very creative.
she was. She was
Yeah.
amazing.
She is really
Yeah,
cool. I really like hanging out with her.
yeah, she was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So, what is some things that you were thinking would be nice to touch on, or did we mostly cover everything?
Well, I could look at my notes and see if there
Okay.
was anything else here.
Yeah.
That. Mhm. I was gonna say that I've always kind of liked the listening, because back in the day they had books on tape,
Mm.
so cassette tape, and then now I guess that's Audible is
Yep.
probably the current rendition of that kind of thing. But I think those are nice resources for people, or you can certainly get CDs at the library and listen to books on CD.
Yeah.
Um, and then there's a new service that I've heard about. I haven't tried it, but it's called Blinkist,
Blinkist. Ah.
Blinkist. And that's kind of a cool way for busy people to. It makes me think of the Reader's Digest condensed books, or
Ah.
back in when I was in school, it was Cliff Notes.
Mm.
I don't know if you remember those,
Oh
but
yeah.
they would summarize the plot of really boring book that you didn't want to read
Yes.
for class, Macbeth or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So those were very handy. So the Blinkist, I guess, is like that. It summarizes the main points of a book so you can get and keep up with the latest books without having to read the full book. So I think
Yeah.
that's kind of a cool thing that people that um, may not want to read the whole book or people that are busy, that
Yeah.
they want to
I have
know.
like 12 books in my currently reading thing. I've got 80 something books in my want to read,
Yeah.
and I've got over 100 books um, in my read books in my Goodreads. And so,
Hmm.
and I have even more books in my Amazon wish list in different categories that I'm like, I would like to read this someday.
Right. I
But
really
I need
admire that.
eternity for to read all the books I want to read.
Exactly. I do really admire that. My parents were both avid readers.
uh,
Up until they passed. I mean, they both were reading a lot of books, and
yeah.
so
It's
I don't
kind of
know
like
what
hard to
happened to
pick.
me,
So pink,
but
I think Blinklist,
mhm,
Blinkist.
mhm.
Is that it?
Yes,
Okay.
Blinkist, yeah.
Okay, Blinkist.
So I guess
And
it's a subscription app
yeah,
that you can,
there's a
and you
couple
can
of them,
share
and
books like that
yeah,
amongst other people, and they can read the stuff that you've highlighted as good, and so it
yeah,
sounds like it's pretty cool.
yeah, it is pretty
Yeah.
cool. I'll definitely check that out. Um, but we up to about 40 something minutes.
Hmm.
Um, I felt bad because I thought it would be an hour.
Well, that's
But,
okay. Um,
um, but I really liked hearing, your sewing stuff, and you still enjoy that stuff. You just don't have time for it and the energy for it.
yeah,
But
yeah. I still have a
but
sewing machine, so I could still do it.
yeah,
I was going to see if there was anything. Um, I think we did kind of hit on everything that I had taken, your questions and thought I better write down my answers, at least get it solidified in my mind
oh
before,
sure,
because
yeah,
that
it's
is
like
one thing that I'm not. My husband's really good at, just he'd have been a good lawyer.
yeah,
Just being able to think, verbally spar with people and be really sharp and come back
yeah,
with a really good response. And I'd always like later on think of what I should have said.
yeah.
So
I
that's why I
know.
thought, well, I'll just, put some
I
of
have
his
I have
thoughts
one possible
together.
guess who's a bit of a minor name who is thinking about maybe being a guest,
Uh-huh.
but he has he's what he calls a slow thinker, and so um, I just wanted to reassure you that there are people who, like yourselves, who are not quick with the back and forth answering questions. They need time to think about it,
Yeah,
and so I
exactly.
want to be accommodating to those folks as well.
Hmm.
That's why I shared the questions with you, and I share the question with any of my future guests who want. These are the sample questions.
Hmm.
Obviously, I had some extra questions that I thought of because of the conversation. I can't
Sure.
help those. It's
No, and
spontaneous.
that's exactly,
So
that's what keeps it interesting and
yeah,
fresh.
and
Yeah.
so it's kind of a nice back and forth. So I'm still learning how to do this thing. You know,
Hmm.
um, I you know I, being in production, I can think of all the things I'm supposed to be doing that I'm not doing because I'm not a tech whiz person. But one of the big things I wanted to learn was just talk with other learners like yourself. I
Hmm.
already selfishly get to talk to you on my own, but this way it's documented and it's on the show and stuff. And you have an interesting perspective of the health stuff and some to the mindset stuff and also to the fun you know sci-fi and you know Ren SCA medieval
Hmm.
reenactment stuff and all that kind of stuff and you know making costumes and stuff and
Yeah.
doing all the sewing thing and all that kind of stuff. I did make a light bulb, a stuffed light bulb in my home ec class. I have no idea where it is, but it was pretty awful. I, I with my eyes, I was having a lot of trouble like threading the needle.
Oh, I bet.
Um,
Yeah.
and so that was a big challenge for me. I know there's tricks you can do with putting it, double looping it and putting it through and then pulling it through and all this kind of stuff. But just getting it through the little eye was like, didn't give a. It was
Right.
like
We'll
poking
leave
my
that for
fingers
someone
constantly
else.
with the needle.
Yeah.
That was not fun, you
Right?
know. So I have a huge amount of respect for anybody who does, you know, seam, sewing and crafts, and because that's really kind of neat to me. I'm like, that's
Hmm.
cool. Um,
Well, I've seen
but
you've done some painting and stuff, so I know
oh
you've
yeah,
got
the
a
point
lot of that
painting that was fun.
creativity in you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like you know I enjoyed that, and we got to do it with your mom. That was fun.
Hmm.
It was
Yep,
really
that
cool.
was fun.
So learning new crafts and learning new things has always been kind of one of my joys
Hmm.
is discovering new things. I'm not the best at remembering new things, but I enjoy learning new things.
Right? Right?
Like,
Sure.
so,
Well,
but
I
go
think
ahead.
that was one of the things that I didn't express earlier, but I think you might attest to this too, that if people are not learning new things, then they're getting stale. The people, and you've probably been around people like that,
Yeah,
and all they do is sort of talk about, their glory days and all that, or, they're
yeah,
not moving forward in any way in their life. And I find those people very uncomfortable to be around.
yeah,
You probably have experienced that as well,
yeah.
you
Sometimes
know?
it's like some people are just salt of the earth people,
Mhm.
and they just work and they do like camping and stuff, and that's what brings them joy.
Right?
And they, you know, uh, God made a lot of people who are salt of the earth people, and thank God for them. They know how to
Oh,
do
yeah.
plumbing, they know how
Absolutely.
to do taxes,
Right?
they know how to do
Sure.
the,
Everybody has a place.
yeah,
Um,
they know how to do banking stuff.
mhm.
But sometimes, you know, for those of us who are, you know, like to think and learn new things, we need a little bit more intellectually to stimulate
Yeah,
us. Like
exactly.
somebody, like somebody who's athletically inclined, they they need to get out and do parkour,
Mhm.
or you know CrossFit or
They
whatever it is.
Yeah, they're
And
running or they're
yeah, they're
biking 50 miles on a
yeah,
weekend or yeah.
yeah. It's like okay, you
Yeah,
go, dude.
right?
So, but yeah, so it's like it's it's kind of our own
Well, I think
thing.
it helps too. Learning new things, I think, keeps your mind active. It keeps
Yeah,
it keeps you upbeat and positive, I think, because
yeah.
life can be pretty mundane,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah,
And so that's partially why I like to listen to podcasts and things um, when I'm doing mundane things like laundry
yeah,
or dishes or things like
yeah,
that. And
yeah,
also, we don't have cable TV. And so um, there's not a lot of great stuff on TV. We get, a couple of good channels, and we like the History Channel stuff that we get. And but yeah, it's kind of nice to um, let's fill our brain with something interesting. Let's learn
something more
something new. Then you
edifying.
don't feel like you're wasting your
Yeah,
time, you
yeah,
know? Yeah.
yeah. It's interesting.
So,
So I had one last thought, and it flew
mhm.
flew out of my head.
Oh,
Um,
shoot.
yeah, but um, I can't think of it. I apologize. I'll think of it after we're done recording. That's the way it
Yeah,
goes.
yeah,
Yeah,
well, you
I
can
was
always
be
add an
all
addendum.
interesting and
Yeah,
stuff, and
postscript.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
Well, and
uh,
I guess too, you're probably pretty selective in what you want to learn about
yeah,
because there's a lot of, new information out there that it doesn't resonate as truthful or whatever. And you're like, no, or you just like, no, I don't want to, I don't want to watch that movie. I don't want to read that book because it'll mess my head up. So,
yeah. I
you
actually
know,
don't watch. I haven't watched TV for like 10 years. I mean,
That's
I'll
awesome.
periodically watch some TV shows or movies with my friends,
Yeah.
but I generally do it because it to be part of the group. Then I
Mm-hmm.
really want to watch something. I'd rather just talk and
Mm-hmm.
be mentally engaged and learn
Yeah.
something new. Um,
Yeah.
Learning
Like,
something is kind of my entertainment.
mm-hmm.
It's a more edifying entertainment. I don't have to worry about these characters who are saying and doing things that I don't like,
Yeah.
that would get me all upset, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And sometimes, um, I just it's funny that I used to work in media production and I've gotten unplugged from entertainment. And
Yeah.
I read some fiction books periodically once in a while, but
Mm-hmm.
like 80 to 90% of my books are nonfiction.
Yeah.
I just enjoy, you know, I don't like periodically um, I'll read stuff that I haven't read, but there's like some common tropes, not common tropes, but common topics that, are pretty eternal for me, like writing,
Mm-hmm.
um, like how to make money,
Mm-hmm.
um, and biblical stuff. Like right now, my kick is learning about medieval education and humility.
Mm-hmm.
Two not related topics that kind of connected somewhat, because there's a lot of things about being not intellectually prideful, as
Mm.
well as, you know, now that I'm in the internet space and minor celebrity thanks to Paul Van der Clay.
Right.
um,
Woohoo.
you know, but that was kind of a cool interview.
That was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
thank
really
you,
enjoyed that.
thank you. That was kind of fun, and I thought of all the things I did wrong later on, but I was actually pretty happy with how it turned out.
Good. Oh,
So
I'm
I
glad.
kind of know what it's like on your side being
Mm-hmm.
interviewed, you
Yeah.
know, and trying to think of the right things to say and do, and it's just it's more of a conversation. That's
Mm-hmm.
what the corner is all about.
Right.
Um, but many people who are not familiar with the corner will come upon this and like, what are you guys talking about this? Um, but yeah,
Well,
learning about humility, kind of like, you know what, I need to do this, and I'm learning a lot of stuff I kind of already knew, but some stuff is fresh and interesting and different. Tim Keller's book, um, something about self forgetfulness.
mm-hmm.
Um, that's really interesting. Talks about the ego
Mm.
being very frail, and
Mm-hmm.
that's why there's like four different things that I can't remember right now, but I can tell you later.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody really wants to know, just put a comment in, and I'll get my notes and write a comment back to you. Um, why don't we go ahead and wrap this up?
Yeah.
I think we
The
explored
one
the
thing
topic.
I
Oh,
was
go ahead.
gonna,
Yeah.
yeah, the only other thing I was gonna say was that the value that you bring to the table for the people in your sphere of influence is tremendous because
Oh,
you've done all of this study and reading. You've brought a lot of wisdom and good perspectives and fresh perspectives to our conversations and to my
oh,
life.
oh,
And I know you're doing that for other people. So
oh,
my hat's off to you and thank you for
oh,
um, your interest in all of these topics because you are able to bring a lot of good information, helping others on their journey, on their path through this life.
oh.
So thank you so much for what you do because
Well,
it's tremendous and it's blessed me a lot. I know it's blessed other people too. So thank you.
you're welcome, and thank you very much. You know, sometimes I learn stuff that comes helpful for other people, and so that's always kind of like, oh, this is a good thing. I learned this kind of thing. So thank you very much, and thank you for watching, everyone. Um, and if you have any questions, let me go over here real quick if I can find my mouse. I don't know where my mouse is. Oh, sometimes it turns off. Let's see. Is so. If you want to talk to me, if you have other things that you're interested in talking about, learning and your experience of being a learner, um, reach out to me at my website below. I'll put it in the description, and let's let's connect. Um, Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.